Oh man, it was tough. It was tough. The funniest part is that no one cared that everyone was like, this is hilarious, Bill saw me that morning, he's like, ooh, tough one last night. I was
Hey,
like,
bro, save that for the band. You know, say it.
yeah. It's like, fuck. It's like I thought I was gonna get sympathy instead, like I got like everyone laughing at me. Every 4 years we were due, 2005, 2009, 2012 was supposed to be the year. Kendall Marshall gets hurt. So now we're at 2016. So it's like you kind of have this path that they've been on where you know exactly what it's gonna be. So there was an expectation there, I think, as a Carolina fan. And when Marcus hit the shot, I think that's when, they cut to Michael Jordan in the crowd. He's doing the fist pump. You say to yourself, destined. You know what I mean? When Marcus Paige hits a double clutch three, it feels like, okay, we're destined to go to overtime. We're destined to win this game. Michael Jordan's there. This guy wins. We're all going to win. And then all of a sudden, it was stripped away really quickly. And the pain, I got better because of the next year, obviously. With time, things get better, but still hurts. I just graduated the year before. I had just seen my senior year, they actually played in LA and lost in the Sweet 16 to Wisconsin. Frank Kaminsky, Sam Decker, the team that would end up beating Kentucky. So that was my senior year, and from there, we all know what happened. Duke won the national championship. So my last year in college was watching the Duke Blue Devils, the one and done Blue Devils, win a national championship. So that was a sour taste in my mouth as I left school. Drove out to Los Angeles to work for Grantland, and then eventually what would become the Ringer. And a year from there, I was like, there has to be some sort of, Carolina and Duke usually are like 92 Duke wins, 93 Carolina wins. They're kind of, close in connection as far as the sliding doors of time. So I thought that there was a world in which this team with Bryce Johnson, with Marcus Paige, Joel Berry, Theo Pinson, Justin Jackson, you start listing these guys, a really solid team. Isaiah Hicks from my hometown. So I thought they had a chance to make a run. It felt like that kind of year. And when you saw the bracket, the way that it broke, I was saying, okay, this is a North Carolina kind of title year. Didn't want to get too ahead of myself, but it felt like a time for them to make a run. And, they did until they didn't. So, for the start of it, it was good. And then the end, not so great. I mentioned the Roy Williams formula. The formula was always you lose in the semifinal of the AC tournament because it's hard to win 10 straight games, especially when you're talking about tournament games, you talk about teams that are so good. So when North Carolina won the AC tournament in 2016, that was a moment where you're like, we're kind of off schedule. As much as it's good to win the AC tournament, you were like, this isn't necessarily the formula that works typically, but maybe Marcus Paige and his magic can supersede kind of the Roy Williams formula. And Bryce Johnson was playing the best basketball of the year. It kind of started in the UCLA game. I was there in Brooklyn. Bryce Johnson got pulled out of the game early. Roy Williams gave him a stern talking to on the bench, unlike anything I've ever seen. And then for the rest of the year, Bryce Johnson had one of the best runs we've seen for a big in North Carolina history. His most seminal game, 37 points, 23 rebounds against Florida State. If you know Florida State, the size of that team, for him to do that was incredible. So then they won the AC tournament. You get a 1 seed. You look at the path to Houston. You say to yourself, we check a lot of the boxes. We got Marcus, who doesn't have to be the primary guy now, with Joel Berry, Theo Pinson, Justin Jackson all kind of stepping up into their roles. Kennedy Meeks was obviously a big part of this team. So in general, I mean, just the excitement was there. But like I said, you're a little bit off script, and that was the biggest concern. And turns out that that one game that they needed to win, they had already kind of wasted in the AC championship game. Yeah, so Villanova obviously won their one championship at this point in 1985, Raleigh Massimino. They were an 8 seed, the highest seed or lowest seed, whichever way you look at it, to win the national championship. And I still think Raleigh Massimino should be in the Hall of Fame, but that's a different discussion. 2005, North Carolina should have lost to Villanova, or could have lost to Villanova in the tournament before they won the national championship. 2009, North Carolina plays Villanova again. They beat Villanova, get the best of them. So 2 times Villanova loses to North Carolina on their way to a national championship. And I think that was the only underlying fact going into that game where you're like, Jay Wright and Villanova, they're kind of due against North Carolina. Like if we're just putting it all together the years. And the year before in 2015, we all remember the girl with the piccolo, crying. That was the year prior. Villanova lost to NC State in an upset in that game. So they had just lost to an ACC team the year before. Everyone's saying at that point, Jay Wright can't get the big one. Jay Wright can't get it done. Jay Wright is a good coach in the regular season, but there's a certain ceiling, like we always do with these coaches, right? Tony Bennett was another one that had that same sort of conversation. conversation. So going into this game, this was supposed to be Roy Williams. He's going to win his third national championship at North Carolina. He's going to beat Villanova again. But Villanova, I think that they were a tougher team. I think at that point, they kind of knew what the storyline was about their coach. They'd already dealt with the heartbreak the year before. They had some guys transfer out. I think Dylan Ennis was the guy who transferred to Oregon, funny enough, who ended up being on Oregon's Final Four team in 2017. But Jay Wright was due. Jay Wright is a really good basketball coach. Jay Wright had the perfect team to kind of foil North Carolina if they get in a shootout, and they were the better team that night for sure. So first year, I was working at The Ringer. I was the producer of Bill Simmons' podcast. We were potentially going to be doing a Bill Simmons podcast recording. I lived in an apartment building about 10 minutes from Bill's house. I was there by myself to watch this game. We were doing The Pivot at the time, which was the first college basketball show here at The Ringer, myself and Mallory Rubin. And I had scheduled an interview with Larry Brown, North Carolina alum, for the next day after the title game. So I was very excited. I thought North Carolina would win this game. I'd go to the office the next day. Larry Brown would hop on the show. Larry Brown would say, "Congratulations to our Tar Heels. Woo, woo, woo." You know, it's all a good day. So I'm by myself. I'm watching this game. It's an incredible game. I mean, going back and forth. I'm in my apartment. They cut to Michael Jordan in the crowd. I'm on the phone with my brother. We kind of have this thing where during North Carolina games of consequence, we'll just like get on the phone with each other. Sometimes you're not even talking. You just like got it on there. And my brother's name is Gil. So we're just sitting there kind of in silence. When he hits the shot, we're both reacting. He's at the game. So he's in Houston in the building.
Wait, so he's calling
from the building. From NRG Stadium. My brother is there at the game. The whole time that possession was happening, Roy Williams does not like to call timeouts. Dean Smith does not like to call timeouts. They like to let their players dictate decisions, right? But as a fan, you're yelling, call a timeout. let's set up something here because this is not going well. We're 30 feet from the basket and the clock is ticking and basically we have to throw up a prayer. So when Marcus jumped up, like you said, his legs are all like over the place. Where when he jumped up, I was like, that's getting blocked and that's going to be a turnover. And then I heard on the phone, like the loud, like reaction roar. And then I saw him let go of the ball and I'm like, no way he made that. And then when it hits, and then I get it on the television, the reaction, and I get like Jim Nantz, oh my, and cuts to the crowd.
3 in the first half. They're going to have to do something from the outside now. It's Page off balance. Puts it up. Impossible. How did he do that? Ties the game with 4.7 seconds to go. How about that kid?
It feels like one stop. We go to overtime and we'll be good here. Funny enough, though, Jay Wright, who I had talked to a few weeks prior, who was on the show, had talked about late game situations, plays that they had run, 6 seconds left on the clock, 3 seconds left on the clock, things like that. And he was like, we run this every day at the end of practice, like this play. And so I'm watching this game on the phone with my brother. Marcus Page has hit the shot. You have the fleeting butterflies in your stomach where you're saying to yourself, we're going to be good. We're destined. If that shot goes in, you feel like you're destined to win the game. And so inbound the ball to Archie Diacono, who is running up the floor, and he looks back at Kris Jenkins. And I'm watching this live in the moment. My brother's on the phone. I see the pitch back to Kris Jenkins, who is the inbounder. He inbounded the ball. He's trailing behind the play. I see the pitch back to Kris Jenkins. I can see like the shot, like what he's looking at. Basket's right here. Kris Jenkins getting the ball in his hands. I just turned my TV off right then because I'm very superstitious at times, and a lot of times if I see like the ball leave the hand, I feel like it'll go in, but if I don't look, they won't. So I turned my TV off right at the time. It's just a black TV.
Go length of the court with Archie Diacono. 3 seconds at midcourt. Jenkins gives it to Jenkins for the championship. The national champions with Jenkins hitting the winner at the buzzer.
I turn my TV back on, and all I see is Isaiah Hicks walking, like kind of just waving the confetti away as the confetti had just dropped. And obviously, Kris Jenkins had just hit a 3. probably the biggest shot in national championship history, maybe college basketball history, in my opinion, just given the stakes of it all. He hits the three. Roy Williams is shaking hands with Jay Wright. Jay Wright, they kind of do like the cut back to the shot. I see the shot, Jay Wright, bang. We all remember him calling it in the moment. But that's because he ran that play every day at the end of practice, which is an awesome kind of full circle moment in general. So bang, hits the shot. Him and Roy have their moment. It's over. It kind of washes over me. Next day, Larry Brown's supposed to be on the pivot, myself, Mallory, and Ruben. We get on back then we were doing like Comrec, so we get him on the phone, and I get on with Coach Brown. I'm like, hey, Coach Brown, it's Tate, good to hear from you, yada, yada, yada. I thought he was going to commiserate with me about how tough this was. Instead, he's like, love Jay Wright, been going to Villanova practices all year. I was pulling for the Wildcats, love that team, so happy for them. Yada, 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 gets in this whole like story about how much he loves Villanova. So not only did it happen, it was like my one person I thought that would, at least be on my side. Now he's like championing, Villanova and their whole story. Mallory is, is professional as always. She's doing her best to try to keep my spirits up. I'm completely deflated. Then after that, we record. I had to go do Bill's podcast, record his podcast. I walk in, he just gives me the oof, tough one last night. I'm like, this is not good. This is not going to be a fun day at the Ringer. And then pretty much everywhere I went, I ran into somebody that, had a nice little moment of like, man, that was a tough one, but what a win for Villanova. Man, how could you not love that team? And, it was a tough day at the office, to say the least. I survived. I got back home that day and was like, oh man, that was one of those days where you just kind of bite it and keep rolling. I thought I would have some sympathy. I'm not gonna lie. I came into the Ringer office and I was hoping maybe a few people would be like, man, tough game last night. But I think everyone, it's a little bit of Schadenfreude, right? Everyone's like, it's kind of funny. This guy talks a lot about North Carolina. And now he's got egg on his face. So, I thought that in 2017 when they won, I'd come to the office, people be like, man, congratulations. I didn't get that either. So,
They just want to see you fail.
yeah, they want to see you fail. It's okay though. You get used to it. That's how the world works. Yeah, I think if they didn't win, I don't think they would have won in 2017 without 2016. I know some Carolina fans argue about that. They're like, they could have won back-to-back. That would have been the first time they ever did that. Duke won back-to-back in 91, 92. North Carolina never done that, so it would have been a nice moment. But I do think that it was a stepping stone to 2017. If they did not win in 2017, it would be a lot worse. I would have a really tough time. And Isaiah Hicks from my hometown was the man who had the hand in the face of Kris Jenkins. Not his responsibility per se, but he after the game said it was my fault that he hit the shot. Royce tried to take that away from him, but he spent the entire year kind of basically saying I'm the reason we lost the national championship game. Cut to 2017 championship game. It's late in the clock, under a minute to go. Isaiah Hicks hit like an incredible double pump floater off the backboard late in that game to basically help them seal it. Everybody remembers the Kennedy Meeks block on Nigel Williams-Goss, but the possession before that, Isaiah hit a huge shot, 101 on the block. So it was like it had to happen for this to happen, but if 2017 didn't happen, I don't think I'd be talking to you right now. I would be too distraught to even bring up this memory. How long is this supposed to be? Or does it matter? Okay.
If you want
All
a
right.
gap for 40 minutes.
All right. Shit, I don't. Gotta beat traffic.